The 1990s were an exciting time in music history. Hip-hop was quickly becoming the genre that dominated mainstream music, with the scene being more competitive than ever.
If the South got something to say, that's all I got to say.
Following the passing of the genre's two biggest artists within less than a year.
The Los Angeles Police Department continues to investigate the murder of the notorious B.I.G., who died in a drive-by shooting early Sunday morning in Los Angeles.
Rap star Tupac Shakur died last night after a brief life in a rough business.
The hip-hop throne was left for the taking, with many artists starting to fight their way to the top. But while a lot of them came and went throughout this time, there were few who stood above all of the others as the one and only Big Punisher.
I'm 300 plus pounds, and I'm gonna say I have the sexiest song in the world right now. Before you know, I stopped blowing up. Before you knew it, I was 17,000 pounds.
Pun had it all. Excellent rhyming techniques, the tough guy look, and a life story to boot.
Well, Pun did a lot of that with his first album.
First Latino to go platinum in hip hop, you know?
That's how pretty much Chris was for a while. He was just going where he could sleep and where he can get a meal.
Coming up on the streets of New York, Pun in his short but impactful career accomplished never-before-seen heights that most rappers only dream of, including becoming the first Latino solo artist to ever go platinum. His story is one that illustrates what it means to be the best, survival and perseverance above all, and a demand to be respected. November 10th, 1971, Bronx, New York. A kid by the name of Christopher Rios, who would later become known as Big Pun, was born into a family of Puerto Rican descent. As an adolescent boy, Rios could only be described as charismatic, funny and hyper, unable to stand still, and constantly looking for new things to do.
Chris was hyper. Yeah, he wouldn't stay still. Hobbies, just sports and football and basketball. Chris loved basketball. More than anything, he loved basketball.
He would come into the house and say rhymes, which it was hip-hop at the time, but I had never heard of it. I didn't know what he was rambling.
From an early age, Pun had a deep love for sports, being particularly fond of basketball, and to the creative world, writing and rhyming from an early age.
He would start writing and play music and sing along with it and turn off the volume and make his own words to the rhymes, and I knew he was going to be someone very special.
Despite never being rich, his life was quite ordinary, growing up in a loving environment where Rio shared an exceptionally close bond with his mother. Unfortunately, the good in his life wouldn't last long, as everything was about to be turned upside down by his father, David Rios.
Chris loved my dad. And I loved my dad, but we weren't very close. My dad cheated on my mom, and my mom caught him.
Despite not being particularly close to his dad, Pun still loved him and was deeply affected by his parents' separation. This would become a catalyst for a series of unfortunate events, as shortly after it, Pun's mother, Gail Tirado, was starting to struggle coping with her problems.
I would say when Chris was a small child, when I did not have a problem with drugs, I was a nurturing mother. I was very close to my children. I did not know what drugs were at the time. And he had a loving family environment. Things changed when I became divorced from his father. I became single, and I started joining the single scene, and I experimented with drugs.
For the time being, the new habit didn't last, as she managed to kick it just before she became completely dependent on it. However, like everything in Pun's life, this once again wouldn't last. Finally moved past her struggles, Gail's life was seemingly starting to go in the right direction, eventually even meeting a man by the name of Tommy. The pair quickly fell in love, and not long after, they even decided to get married. However, her new lover also had a dark secret.
Then I met Nicole's father. I stopped doing drugs at the time, but then about 2 years into the marriage, I realized he was on heroin. That's when I started. It was a great impact on my son, because I couldn't be nourishing if I was on drugs. That's not the way I wanted it to be. I wanted to be a mother to him, but at the time I didn't know how to deal with my pain.
My mom had a problem back then. She had an addiction that didn't allow her to be a better mom. I just love my mom. You know, my mom was not the best mom. all he ever wanted was for her to love him back the way that he loved her. That's all Chris wanted. He wanted our mom to love him. That's all.
Sadly, Tommy had a very negative effect on the family, and Pun's mother soon returned to her old ways, letting drugs take over her life, leaving young Chris in a very unfortunate position. Apart from not getting the care that he needed from his mother, the relationship that they once shared was sadly gone forever, as she was too busy getting high, and his new heroin-addicted stepfather was starting to become abusive.
Tommy was very hard on Chris. He was, 11, I was 13, or even younger, Throughout the years, I was, and I hate saying that I was never old enough to defend him because I should have. I should have did something, said something. Tommy would wake up Chris in the middle of the night. I mean, we're sleeping in the room, and Tommy would just come in and get up, and turn the lights on and make him get up and do push-ups and smack him in the back of his head. And I mean, he was just so harsh on him, And I would just I would be scared and I would shun myself in a corner. And Chris went through that when I saw it on the weekend, so I could only imagine what happened during the week,
He always says how Tommy came and he just took an apple and from deep just threw it at him and hit him in the face, which, the apple's like a rock. My father was hard on him, always comparing him and stuff like that. He wanted him to be like a military boy.
The difficult family life had an incredibly harmful effect on Pun's psyche, more specifically, his temper. The horrible experiences that he had to suffer through in his home caused him to develop a temper problem, which stayed with him for the rest of his life. At the time, Pun coped with his emotions by lashing out, which included punching holes in walls and eating rocks.
I know my brother would get stressed out sometimes and he would punch holes in the wall and eat the rocks in the wall.
He had a terrible, terrible, terrible temper when he was young. He would get so red. I mean, so red that I think this kid's gonna burst. And then he would clench his teeth. And he started biting rocks. And as it got bigger, it was more rocks, bigger rocks. And I tell him, that's gonna mess up your inside. Chris, you can't be eating rocks. It was rocks and ice. He would just crush it. You gotta have teeth made of steel. And it was a bad habit, we couldn't do anything about it.
For Chris Rios, life was rough. At the young age of 7 or 8 years old, Pun would walk to the other side of the neighborhood to pay his parents' bills, would often go to sleep hungry, didn't have proper clothing, and overall did not have a lot of privileges that so many kids nowadays take for granted. Pun's tough upbringing forced him to grow up fast, which meant that he had to find a way to make money. To him, the most logical place to turn to was the streets. It's unclear when exactly Pun started selling drugs to support himself, but from what we know, he managed to find a lot of success with it.
He had a big bomber, leather jacket, and all these fancy rings, and a chain down to here, and he thought he was the man.
Once again, the pattern of his life continued, as it didn't take long for his troubled life to catch up with him, and at around the age of 15, he was caught by the police and had to spend the night in jail. This experience had a profound influence on the young MC, as he vowed that he would quit selling drugs and would avoid the street life entirely.
He spent one night in jail, and that's all it took, was that one night, and he said he was never going to go to jail again.
That's the worst thing that could happen to anybody, any parent, to see your grandson or child or whatever in handcuffs. I didn't know what to do. On the way home, I tell him, Chris, I can't go through this. How can you be selling drugs at your age? What are you doing? And he looked at me. He said, I will never get arrested. Ever. I will never let you go through that again. And then I said, where's all that fancy stuff you have? He says, no, they took it. I guess you have to hand all this stuff in. And they're going to keep it. I'll never come back. Never, because I'm never going to spend another night in there.
While usually this would seem like fantastic news, Pun's mother saw the situation differently. Quitting the street life meant that Pun was no longer able to financially support his family, and because of this, she gave him an ultimatum: go back to selling drugs or leave the house. Pun chose the latter, and at the young age of 15 years old, Christopher Rios was kicked out of his mom's house and was forced to live on the cold streets of South Bronx.
Then he got tired. He was telling his mother that he didn't want to sell any more drugs. And he didn't want to do that anymore. So she told him, well, if you don't sell any more drugs, then you got to leave. So she actually kicked him out because he didn't want to sell any more drugs.
Not having a place to stay meant that every day was a fight for survival, even more so than ever before. Sadly, it meant that Chris wasn't able to pay as much attention to his academic life, and not long after this incident, Pun was forced to drop out of high school. Practically homeless, Chris had a tough few years ahead of him, being forced to live couch to couch, staying wherever he could to spend the night.
Chris was house to house looking for a place to sleep. For a little while, he went to stay with, I have an older sister, Christine. He went to stay with her mom, Linda, and Linda took him in, and he ate a lot. And she said, oh my God, you know, Christopher eats so much, and you know, it's so hard, but you know, she says, well, you know, you feed 3, you feed 4, you know, no big deal. And it was like that for a while.
His life was as rough as ever, shrouded in the void of darkness, with the only glimmer of hope being one special girl, by the name of Liza.
Then of course we exchanged numbers and he would call me and we started on a little dating, you know, thing. I introduced him to my mom took a liking to him, and from there we just started, you know, chilling every day together.
Christopher adored Liza.
April 8th was the first time that he was like, oh, can you be, you know, would you be my girl? That was when he popped the question, will you be my girlfriend? April 8th of 1987. Obviously, I said yes.
He met Liza and he was head over heels with Liza.
Sometimes pick me up at 7 o'clock in the morning. We'll be chilling, walking around all over the Bronx. You know what I'm saying? Going out to Westchester Avenue, going to Parkchester, back to Bronx River. Go over there by Watson, by the basketball court, play ball. It's like 7, 8 at night. So I would skip school. I wouldn't even go to school and just go home, chill. Next day in the morning, pick me up at 7, break out, just chill. We used to be some broke motherfuckers, have like $2. Sometimes if nobody in the house would, yo, come upstairs, make him something to eat. I would have like $1, $2, buy like the big bakery bread, eat that, you know what I'm saying? But it was like nothing. We never stressed about money. We could have had $1 million, we could have had $1. It was all the same. For some reason, I don't know, I was like his whole world.
Unfortunately, the two couldn't stay together forever, as after a few months of going out, the two had to separate due to Liza's parents' insistence, with Liza being forced to move to Long Island. A year and a half later, Liza returned to New York.
I saw him one day and he was like, what's up? You know what I'm saying? You back? You know what I'm saying? Let's go out. I was like, nah, I'm chilling. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to get in trouble because it hurt me. It was hard for me to live out there for a year and a half in Long Island. You know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't close to my father. And it was a whole year and a half that I was away from my mother. And I was like forbidden to come to the Bronx. So then he bounced to Florida for like a month just on vacation. And he had left his number with my mother. So I'm doing my thing and whatever. And he already bounced to Florida. And then my mother had came and she said, yo, Chris gave me his number. I was like, all right, whatever. So I just left it there. A month, 2 months passed, and she's like, oh, what's up? You called him? I'm like, nah. So now my mother's stressing me if I called him. I'm like, nah, you know, I ain't calling him, whatever. So then one day I called him, and we stood on the phone like, I don't know. I must have had like mad quarters or something. We stood on the phone mad long. He came the next day, or like, yeah, the next day he came to see me. I remember exactly what he was wearing. Some blue jeans with a Gap shirt, the classic, you know, Reeboks. And I'm like, you know, I hear him calling me outside the window. I'm like mad nervous, like, oh my God, you know, he's here. And I'm like getting dressed and getting ready. Then I come downstairs and it was like we wasn't never gone. We was never separated for that whole year and a half. You know what I'm saying? We hooked up like that.
However, by this point, Pun was in deep water. He was about to turn 18 years old, had just gotten back together with his girlfriend, didn't have a place to stay, but simultaneously had big dreams of making things work, getting his life on track. Liza was a key component in helping to build the icon we know today as Big Pun, and for a long time, she didn't even know that he was homeless, as he would do his best to keep up appearances, smell nice, and look clean.
One day I found out I was homeless and I was like, but how you know, how every day you come and clean? And, you know, he was like, nah, you know, sometimes I stay in my friend's house, I'll take a shower, change there. He said, I have my clothes stashed in this building. He had his clothes stashed in this abandoned building in the Bronx over there in Intervale, by whole place. right? And there was like a lot with a pump. He said sometimes I'll just wash up in the pump or, you know, crazy stuff. I was like, wow, you know, so that's crazy. So then I had a little money saved up, and me and my mom, we went and we got him a furnished room at Hunts Point.
The help received from Liza and her mother became a huge stepping stone for young Chris, as he was finally able to have some sort of stability in his life, eventually even finding a job and slowly digging himself out of bottom. After such a long time of constant struggles, Pun would finally find himself on the other side of the coin, as luck was starting to favor him. While he had a place to stay and a little bit of money coming in, his financial worries weren't over yet, so he decided to call his family lawyer, who was a close family friend, to borrow some money.
The lawyer was like, oh my God, Chris, where you been? I've been like looking for you, you know what I'm saying? You settled this case. Because when he was like 4 or 5 years old, he fell off a building in Clinton Towers in Manhattan. They were doing some construction in the park, and he climbed up a couple of stories up and he fell, which caused his ankle to break off. So the mother put a lawsuit, and they never settled it until he was 18. So by the time he was 18, they settled, and he had like $500,000.
The money changed everything. After years of homelessness and struggle, Chris was finally able to stand on his own 2 feet, and with his newfound wealth, he immediately moved into an apartment with his girlfriend Liza, got married, and had their first child, a daughter by the name of Amanda.
So then he was like, yo, let's get this apartment. So I was like, yeah, but if I got this apartment, I gotta get this like tonight, because if I'm not home by 7, then I'm gonna get thrown out. Like I was stressed, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, she gonna throw me out, whatever. So I bet. So we went all the way to 230 something up in White Plains and went to this little Blake Realty. And we saw this Jamaican guy who was like, yo, we gotta get a crib. You know what I'm saying? We gotta get it like today, tonight. And Pum was like putting the math pressure, like, no, but you know what I'm saying? I got a couple of places, you know, you get, so he's like, no, tonight. We gotta get a place tonight. So we got our first crib right there, 221st in White Plains.
At this point, Pun was finally settling into adult life. Despite a difficult upbringing and several tough years battling homelessness, Pun finally found himself in a situation where his financial worries seemed to be a thing of the past. While this newfound stability brought relief, it did not erase the deep-seated effects of his childhood trauma and ongoing mental health struggles. During this time, as a way to cope with stress, Pun began to gain weight due to his eating habits, and although it had not yet reached a point where it hindered his day-to-day life, it was slowly starting to become a problem. In the meantime, contrary to his overeating, Chris would spend a lot of time on the basketball court, the very place that would soon change his life forever, offering him a new sense of purpose and community. As Pun's friends recalled in interviews years later, back then, most of the people playing basketball were black, and on the court, people of Spanish descent, such as Pun, were few and far between. Naturally, this meant that all of the Spanish players, being the odd ones out, would know each other and get along pretty well. Ultimately, the court, which started just as a place to play, became a pivotal meeting ground for Pun, where he made connections with people who would significantly influence his life. One of these people would be none other than Sammy Garcia, better known as Triple Seis. The two had an instant connection, quickly bonding over their shared heritage and love of sports.
So we met on the basketball court on my block. He was real slim, like, you know what I mean? He was like a $180 at that time. And he was never back then, like, he was good at anything. Like, anything he put his mind to, he'd be good at it. That's how he was.
I knew Pun from the hood. Pun used to hang out with my boys, you know, Jeff Jordan, Psycho Cav, Green Eye Jerry. You know, he used to hang out with all the Morenos from the block. So we was always into sports. So we met up on basketball court. Cause we was like maybe two out of the few Latins that was still balling with the Morenos, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we met then, and ever since then we just clicked. I think we just clicked.
Another important person in Pun's career who he met on the same court was Felix Delgado, later professionally known as Cuban Link. While the two had met playing basketball, it was only when Seis introduced Pun to Link when the two of them became friends. According to the story, Pun and Seis came over to Cuban's apartment early one morning and threw rocks at his window to get his attention. Link came down and the two vibed immediately. The three conversed about Pun's new .380 pistol before Pun invited them into his apartment. The three began to hang out every day, with Link and Seis sometimes even skipping school just to come to Pun's apartment and hang out, watch movies, play dominoes, pool, and Nintendo games.
Seis introduced me to Pun. Came in front of my window, said, "What's up?" You know, I knew Seis before Pun. Man, that was my man. And he was always with the rap thing. And I was always with the rap thing, but on the hobby tip, on the low, nobody, you know, was shy. And, you know, we met each other like Triple Seis was my man like that. And he came to my window, said, "What's up?" You know, he had this kid with him. You know, he had a Carhartt suit, walking up and down. You know, can't stay still. So I was like, "What's up, baby? I'll be down in a minute." I came downstairs. I met Chris. You know what I'm saying? I used to call him Moondog. And, you know, from the first day, he just was mad cool dude. Showed love. He just showed love. He just had like to have fun. Everything he said was just funny. You know what I'm saying? This nigga just was it. It was the total package from the beginning.
While all three of them were all rapping independently, it was only Triple Seis and Cuban Link who showcased their rap skills on the block, while Pun, for the time being, left his talent to himself. Due to his priorities in taking care of his family, he didn't have time to chill on the block and often preferred to stay inside, never getting the opportunity to show Seis and Link his talents. However, this all changed one day when he unexpectedly found time to step outside and in a spontaneous moment of inspiration, decided to join a cypher. Pun spat a verse, and everyone was instantly blown away, left in awe by the young MC's talent.
Then, you know, we was banging on the beach in the Halls of Hell one day, and we was doing a cypher, and he just spit a rhyme, and I was like, oh, and everybody was at odds with him because he was like, yo, this nigga's nice.
Once the cat was out of the bag, and everyone knew that Pun was a true student of the game, the idea of forming a crew gained life.
He started coming up with things just like, you know, kids do it up in the suburbs, you know what I'm saying? You start putting up a band together. It was just like me and him. And we all, you know, we both liked to rap and we love hip hop. And he used to love music. That was his thing, music. Me, I used to just write hip hop in class, you know. And then we got together, we started saying, yo, when you rhyme, we started not, you know, I started realizing how nice he was. Then he said the same thing about me, and it was just like, yo, let's just make a little group and see how far we could take it. But, you know, some playful, some kids.
At first it was only Pun, back then going by the stage name Big Moon Dog, and Cuban Link, or back then known as Lyrical Assassin, rapping together under the moniker Rough and Rugged, as at the time Triple Seis was a part of another group called Young and Ruthless and didn't want to go between the crews in order to avoid upsetting anyone. While his decision did annoy Pun and Link, they understood the situation and didn't want to break up Young and Ruthless as they were also big fans of the group. However, Seis's initial rejection didn't last long, and after his previous group broke up, he soon became the third member of Rough and Rugged. Armed with exceptional talent, it didn't take long for the crew to start making a name for themselves around the neighborhood. Eventually, the group added a fourth member by the name of Tomb, and after changing their group name a couple of times, they fully locked in on a new moniker, Full Eclipse. While initially Tomb joined the squad to help the group from the business side, he also had love for music, and sooner than later, the four-man group were all rapping around the neighborhood, performing at block parties, local shows, paying their dues, and hustling their way to the top.
I think of Full Eclipse, I think about the car, two-door car, all of us in it, I think about the pellet guns and us bugging out, shooting out windows. I think about when we was hungry, me, Pun, Cuban, and Seis. No money, no food. We used to go park across the street from Kentucky Fried Chicken. You know what I mean? And wait for the cat with the biggest bag to walk out of there. If you see the cat walk out with the biggest bag, I'll deliver.
The Full Eclipse movement, combined with the hard work that they were putting in previously, took their buzz to the next level and were starting to show the fruits of their labor. The word of mouth about the group's potential spread quickly around the neighborhood, attracting investors and even reaching the heavy hitters in the music industry. According to Cuban Link, a man by the name of Uncle B decided to invest into the group, buying all of the matching vests and further helping them to secure local shows around the block.
And then we started actually messing with Uncle B from Lower East Side. He invested some money in us, so he got us the vests. You know, he got us some shows, and we was just, you know, grinding.
This growing interest by the outsiders only solidified their mainstream potential, and soon this peer-to-peer dissemination reached a man who was already an established artist by the name of Joseph Antonio Cartagena, better known by his stage name, Fat Joe.
Me, Pun, and Seis was the Full Eclipse crew before we even got,
okay,
you know what I'm saying, with Joe, and that separation came about. But, you know, we made noise through the streets, which the Terror Squad niggas that we used to hang with let Joe know about us. Okay. And then he came down and he heard us, you know, he met us. And, you know, he showed his interest, and then, you know, that took on a business route.
The moment when everybody's lives changed happened in 1995, when Pun and Joe would finally meet each other outside a bodega on 166th Street in the Bronx.
So one day I'm driving, one of them weird days that I'm driving by myself.
So I go to the bodega I always go to.
And some Spanish kids are rapping.
It was him, Cuban Link, Seis, all the niggas rapping.
And then the biggest one says, yo, let me rap, twin, let me rap.
I'm like, now what is the
that a Puerto Rican guy's gonna rap about, right?
So I'm sitting there like, for real? I got a Diet Pepsi in my hand. I'm like.
By this point, Fat Joe was already making moves in the hip-hop scene. He already had a record deal with Relativity Records, was no stranger to the Billboard Hot 100 charts, and his debut title, Represent, was already making a lot of noise in the music world.
And he started going
boom, he just stopped like a hawk.
And then out of nowhere he said, snatch the moon out the sky and blow the sun away. Me and my brothers playing hardball,
strictly hardcore lyrics till up, and I was like,
crazy, like, oh my God, like, yo, this thing is incredible. Like,
I opened up the Lexus, I had the white Lexus, right this way. I opened the door.
Joe was blown away. This one interaction would prove to be a monumental turning point in Pun's life, as it meant the beginning of both a professional relationship and a deep friendship. After hearing him spit a verse, Fat Joe was so impressed by the up-and-coming rapper's talent that he invited Rios to a studio session the very same night.
I never forget, it was Cuban Link, Seis, and Toom. His name was, they was like, he's in a group. Like, I'm putting the nigga in the car, they like, he's in our group. The Moondogs, the niggas is like, he's in a group. Like, let me know, yo, he ain't solo. Don't try to sign that nigga alone. That night we took him to the studio, and he was just phenomenal. It was exceptional.
Before he knew it, Rios was to appear on Fat Joe's second studio album, titled Jealous One's Envy, on the song Watch Out.
Yo, I caught some bloody bath to make my buddies laugh and gig. My nutty rap will live as long as I'm a nasty kid.
Unfortunately, the album didn't do well commercially, and disappointed with the album sales, Fat Joe left Relativity and signed to Atlantic Records. After signing to Atlantic, Joe was granted his own record label, Terror Squad Productions. In addition to himself, Joe also signed a newly formed rap group called Terror Squad, composed of members Armageddon, Prospect, former Full Eclipse members Triple C's, Cuban Link, and Big Pun, with Pun being the label's flagship artist. Under this new label, on October 14, 1997, Rios made a solo debut under the new name Big Punisher on the song I'm Not a Player.
Capital punishment when I'm up in it, crushing it, busting it out. Nice blouse, let me unbutton it.
The single was something special, transforming Pun's local buzz into a nationwide movement, as the song charted at number 57 on the Billboard Hot 100. The track's initial success made Pun realize that it was his time to shine, leading him to begin recording songs for his upcoming debut album, Capital Punishment. Soon after the single release, a newfound A&R at Loud Records named Sean C. introduced a producer who already had worked with Jay-Z, Mary J. Blige, and MF Grimm named Nobody to Big Pun. Impressed by the producer skills, the rapper hired Nobody to remix his previously released track, I'm Not a Player. The seemingly spontaneous move would eventually produce a single, which would eventually become a landmark in hip-hop history, titled Still Not a Player. The track was released on March 28, 1998, featuring R&B singer Joe and becoming Big Pun's first mainstream hit and major breakthrough. The single took the scene by storm, peaking at number 24 on the Billboard Hot 100, making it Pun's most successful single.
Yo, I'm still not a player, but you still a hater. Elevator to the top high. See you later.
Nowadays, Still Not a Player is often ranked as one of the greatest hip-hop songs of all time, having once generated immense momentum that propelled Big Pun into the spotlight.
Now he's the reigning champ as the first Latino rapper to go platinum.
I'm 300 plus pounds, and I got the sexiest song in the world right now. So I made the song so famous. Is when I go Boricua, Morena, and Boricua means Puerto Rican and black woman. That's like my love to the music, you know? My love to the, thank you to the black people for accepting Boricua. Hip-hop is culture. Hip-hop isn't just a form of music anymore. It's life. It's a way of life, way of living. And then you wake up every day and just surrounded by, you know, me being from the Bronx, it's my life. I didn't have to look for it. I come outside, and the graph artists are right there in front of my building. On the corner, they were breakdancing, you know what I'm saying? There was constantly battling on the corner, so it was my life. It was just like being Puerto Rican, you know what I'm saying? You're part of hip-hop, being black. It was just hip-hop where I was from, you know what I mean? So it was like culture to me. It was like part of my everyday life.
I remember he was out with Joe or something riding around, and it came on the radio. And he had called me to pay attention to the radio that was gonna come on. And he called me, he was like, oh, how do I sound, you know? I was like, you know, his voice, it sounds different than, you know, on the radio, you know what I'm saying? His voice than him talking to you in person. But I was happy. I was like, yo, it sounded hot, you know what I'm saying? It was good. He was excited. He was good, you know what I'm saying? He was happy about it.
I did a video, you know, you've got to see it. It's coming on in such and such time. And, you know, I think, you know, we were all glued to our TVs when that video was coming on. And we were so excited. And right there, I said, oh my God, my brother is so talented. He's so smart. I mean, I always knew he was, you know, he had it in him, but it came to life, you know?
After years of struggle and hard work, all of it was slowly starting to pay off, and fueled by the immense success of his two singles, exactly a month after Still Not a Player release, on April 28, 1998, Big Pun released his full-length debut album, Capital Punishment.
Okay, now tell me about this album, Capital Punishment, the title means...
Capital Punishment, you know what I'm saying? Take it away from the Republicans and reverse capital punishment, you know what I'm saying? Minorities the majority, you know what I mean?
No question.
We're on our own labels, you know?
I don't even believe in that world minorities, because technically we are the majority.
I've been saying it for years, you know?
The momentum of the singles instantly propelled the album to number 5 on the Billboard 200, claiming number 1 spot on top R&B albums chart for 2 weeks straight. The album was a major success, forever solidifying a spot in the music history by becoming the first solo Latin hip-hop record to ever go platinum.
You don't know already, I don't know where you've been, you know what I'm saying? But Terror Squad, T-Squad is locking it down right now, you know? Trying to make history again. We already made history. First Latinos to go platinum in hip-hop, you know? Now we're about to take it to the next level. What's the deal?
The fans and music critics loved the project, with Q magazine even comparing Big Pun to the late Biggie Smalls, a legend that left the hip-hop throne for the taking. Displaying huge lyrical prowess and the requisite sensitive side, the album established Pun as a serious rival to Biggie Smalls and something of a lady killer to boot. Outrageously good.
People compare me to Biggie a lot. I understand that because we're both big guys and we both rhyme about the girls and the hardcore, and we do it well.
He was as great as, you know, how people look at Rakim and they look at Nas and they look at, you know, Coogee Rap and Tupac and Big. He was like that with his first album. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't really notice that. Like, you know, Big, they had 2 albums. Pac had about 57. You know what I mean? But Pun did a lot of that with his first album.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I would have loved to hear a Big Pun and B.I.G. collab. It would have been incredible.
It was in the works, man. You know what I'm saying? It was just gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? But you know, like I said, you know, I swear the ball bounces. You know what I mean? You know, but we'll have our day. You know, I see him at the pearly gates. You know what I mean? And we'll keep it going from there.
The widespread critical acclaim established Pun as a major newcomer in the music scene, with Capital Punishment getting nominated for the Grammy Award for Best Rap Album.
Chris, wouldn't it be great if you were nominated for a Grammy? You know, have you heard anything yet? And he said at that moment, hold on a minute, I have another phone call. And then all of a sudden I hear like yelling in the background and screaming. And he comes back on the phone, he goes, that was the phone call, I just got nominated.
And we went out there, we stood out there like for a month in LA. We had this big mansion, stood out there for a while. And then once we got It was the actual day of the Grammys. You know what I'm saying? He had a high-ass outfit on, you know, we're all dressed up, you know, he's all iced out. I did his hair and everything. Got in a limo, Brooke guy went over there. And it was weird because it's like, I always used to watch the Grammys on TV, you know what I'm saying? And to watch people walk down the red strip, the red carpet, you know what I'm saying? And you know, I feel like, wow, it must be cool to be there one day. And I was actually there, you know what I'm saying? And I remember just walking into the crowd and just, you know, he was walking, I was a few steps behind him, you know what I'm saying? And then, you know, and I just see everybody cheering for him. It was like crazy. And he was just walking down that aisle and it's like, and I was like, wow, it's crazy because we would sit all the time and watch, you know, the Grammys and the awards, you know, year after year. And that's when it dawned on me, like, wow, I never thought that he would be here at this time.
Unfortunately, the album fell short of victory and after a tough battle, lost to a rapper who would soon become a very important figure in Pun's life story, Jay-Z, and his 1998 album, Volume 2, Hard Knock Life.
And the winner is Goldie
Jay-Z.
After years of turmoil, life was finally looking up for Big Pun and the Terror Squad crew. Within less than 3 months of Pun's debut release, the album was certified platinum. He had already solidified himself a spot in the music history, and for once in his life, was on the right path to success.
Prospect, aka Sleepy Dog, Triple Seis the Beats, we got Cuban Link, we got Tony Sunshine, Armageddon, go by the name of Getty, and of course BP, Big Pun.
Big Pun in the house.
I just want the niggas to know once again, like I always do, that, you know, that we the loudest niggas in this game, you know what I'm saying? That, you know, we rap for the cheddar, you know what I'm saying?
But of course, do your shout outs with the whole family.
Yo, shout out to Terror Squad, and that's it.
Yeah, baby, Cuban Link in the house, so I'm saying, represent Triple Seis.
Now, first of all, I don't fight my friends, all right? Second of all, I will bite your nose off. I want to fight you, my man. Yo, you ever disrespect me, Charlie? I'll be like, yo, Charlie, my man. Yo, Charlie, you ever try to fight me, Charlie? I'm like, you're my man, I ain't gonna fight you. Johnny. I'll slap you around a couple times, just like, yo, don't ever disrespect me again. How about you live? You know what I'm saying?
This nigga's wildin', son. You crazy. You smacking me, nigga.
He's my man. I ain't gonna fight him. I'll slap him around, put him in his face, and I'll let him live. Because it's my man. If it wasn't my man, though, oh!
You, I handcuff you, nigga, starve you. I handcuff you and eat 16 tacos in front of you. Alright? It's 16. Alright? And leave the meat in all of them. Leave the meat in all of them.
All of this was not only great news for Pun, who had completely turned his life around, being quite a ways from being homeless on the streets of New York, but also for Fat Joe, whose protege and signee was proving to be an incredibly successful artist.
Capital punishment, man. Congratulations, man.
Thanks, man. That's what I dreamt of. I ain't know it was like this, but they give me the love, you know what I mean?
You shut Manhattan down, baby.
I want to apologize to the 5,000 people outside can't get in. But we're going to party for y'all real hard in here tonight.
What has prepared you over the years for this, for now, for platinum?
I'm the first Latino soloist in hip-hop to ever get a platinum. And that's special to me because, you know, we love hip-hop. Yeah. You know, and as kids, we need somebody to look to strive further. I mean, if I want to play football and there's a Puerto Rican that's good at football, I'm going to try harder, you know, to do what he did.
And yo, I shatter dreams like Jordan, assault and battle your team. Your squadron will be barred from rap like Adam and Eve from the garden. I'm carving my initials on your forehead, so every night before bed you see the BP shut off the board head. The first whack, nigga with the worst rap, cause he ain't worth jack. Hit him with 1,000 pounds of pressure per slap. Make his whole body jerk back. Watch the earth crack, hand him his first back. I'm the first Latin rapper to back for your skull. Master the flow. Niggas be swearing I'm black and cold like Matt King. I be rapping the guns, packing the ones, magnums, cannons, and Gatling guns. It's Big Pun, the one and only son of Tony Montana. You ain't promised mañana in the rotten Montana. Come on, Pana, we need more rappers. Fill him out and want a snake bite. Anaconda, a man of honor would want to try to match my persona. Sometimes robbing, I blow my own mind like Nirvana. I want a whole guy like Madonna.
However, despite all the success, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for Terror Squad, as they weren't the only up-and-coming hip-hop crew looking to take over New York, and a new beef was just over the horizon with one of the most iconic rappers of all time, none other than Jay-Z.
I love them. Brooklyn is hardcore. Except for Jay-Z.
In order to understand where Big Pun's problem with Jay-Z originates, it's important to understand the state of New York hip-hop in the mid-1990s, Jay-Z's come-up, and the relationship between Big Pun and Fat Joe. While the scene was very different as to compare what it is today, back then, hip-hop was as competitive as ever. East Coast artists such as the Notorious B.I.G. and Nas were at the top of the game, competing for the crown of the King of New York, while up-and-comers like Fat Joe and Jay-Z were still small fish in a big pond. Both of them had big dreams, but it was a rat race to the top, and thus there was a lot of competition and constant tension between the two. This was highlighted by the lack of respect Fat Joe had for Jay-Z, mainly due to the fact that Joe felt that Jay was a fraud, as in the beginning, Jay-Z was a much different artist from the drug dealer turned billionaire mogul persona we all know today. If we take a look at some of Jay-Z's earliest works, for example in the 1989 Jazzo song Hawaiian Sophie, Hov is nearly unrecognizable and doesn't resemble a mafioso, instead looking more like a fun and marketable nerdy guy, much more resembling the Fresh Prince rather than the Godfather.
I don't even remember her name.
We'll talk about that later. Chief, bust the freestyle.
Check. Here I am, the man. I'm swinging and singing and bringing the light on the mic. Again, together forever endeavors to always prevail. Well, wherever the weather, I'm better, you seem to pale in comparison. Jay-Z's embarrassing. Your time after, rigor the rhyme after, ligger the last Jay-Z rhyme, so you can say I'm superb with A-line. Peace.
Leading up to his debut album, Jay-Z's public image had a massive shift. By the time his debut album Reasonable Doubt came out, Jay was wearing fancy black suits and hats, rapping about the struggles, dangers, and financial rewards of growing up in a rough environment and resorting to drug dealing as a means of survival.
What was it like coming out from Marcy Projects in Brooklyn? That's right. Yeah. What is it like, you know, what was the journey like? Give me an idea from the projects to CEO.
Yeah, right there, you know, that's a lot of, you know, that's a struggle within itself. There's a lot of obstacles in your way, a lot of things to sidetrack you from things that you want to do. You know what I mean? And then you don't really know what you want to do because, you know, the people around you that's most attainable to you, accessible, that's right there. But you know, hustling or what have you, and you know, doing other activities. So that's the most accessible thing. First, you have to get over that. You have to look past that.
Fat Joe saw this shift as fraudulent and felt as though Jay was trying to glorify a lifestyle that it didn't really live. This, coupled with the fact that Jay's albums had better sales, him constantly claiming that he was the king of New York, obviously left Fat Joe annoyed.
Because a lot of other people should be saying something. We said enough. Let's see what the rest of these guys with the big names and the million selling records, all the gangster rappers, the kill 'ems. Ooh, yo. Oh yeah, kill 60 people on your album, but you won't talk about one person. We love you. You know what I'm saying? So what we gonna do?
Most of these rappers got 95% show, you know what I mean? 5% realism. And we ain't even gonna get to that, you know what I mean?
While there may not have been any direct trouble between the two at the start, Joey Crack felt overshadowed by Hov and held a grudge against him. He also wasn't cool with Jay sampling his song 1 2 Pass It on the Reasonable Doubt track Bring It On, all while copying Joe's gangster persona while not seemingly being about that life.
Bring it on if you think you can hang, and if not, then let me do my thing.
This is where Big Pun comes into picture.
This is Joe Crack, yo, Big Punisher, definitely one of the best rappers in the world. Don't sleep on my man.
No doubt.
No doubt, one of the illest. Straight for the single, I ain't a player, I just crush a lot.
It's no wonder that Big Pun and Fat Joe had quite the bond, with songs like Twins highlighting the fact that the duo was much more than just business partners. The two had an unbreakable bond, and their relationship was not far from that of brothers. Joe discovered Pun and helped him turn his dreams of being a well-established rapper into a reality, so it shouldn't come as a surprise that the two had common friends and enemies, and that Pun would not take kindly to anyone who Joe had a problem with.
couple of years ago, I remember sitting down talking with Joe, and y'all turned this whole thing around, and Terror Squad and everything, and y'all sat down and made a plan, and now it's all coming true, man.
Thanks to the man right here, Don Cartagena. You know, he had a plan, you know what I'm saying? He took the talent that we had and utilized, you know what I mean? He know how to put a plan together and it worked.
One is incredible. You know, he's just simply a genius. You know, I executive produced him. I also manage him, discovered him. You know, I love it. You know, it seems like, you know, all our work efforts paid off.
I'm the first Latino soloist in the world to ever go platinum in hip-hop. Thanks to Joey the Dawn, you know, passing the torch to me.
The moment when the Big Pun and Jay-Z beef moved on from a general dislike of one another due to the competitive nature of hip-hop into something that went beyond words happened one night at a nightclub named Carbon. The story goes that a Terror Squad associate had hired Jay-Z to perform at the venue, with Big Pun, Fat Joe, Cuban Link, and Memphis Bleek also set to appear. Unfortunately, the night went on, and Jay ended up never hitting the stage, possibly leaving early or never even coming to the venue to begin with the reason allegedly being that he wasn't paid enough money, being paid $15,000, which he claimed was only his appearance fee. Tensions between the Terror Squad and Jay-Z's Roc-A-Fella camps were high, and at some point, the two crews got into an altercation, with one Terror Squad associate apparently getting into an argument with Roc-A-Fella crew member, Memphis Bleek, which resulted in him being assaulted.
What happened is homie came through our VIP.
Rest in peace, Flat.
Just stumbling through the VIP instead of saying, excuse me, whatever, bumping his way through, and you know, niggas like, what, who you? So niggas flipped him upside down and sent him back to his section. And then it was on from there.
The result of this interaction between the two camps was an all-out brawl.
So now Terror Squad associate comes and he walks back to the VIP where we all at, bleeding. He said, yo, twin, they flipped on me. Once that happened, it was a wrap. We flipping on, you know, he pull out a Rambo knife. I'm on top of the bar flinging bottles, niggas is swinging. R&S niggas is beating up niggas over there. So we just started just wilding because we seen that.
That niggas started chasing like the whole Roc-A-Fella niggas out the whole Carbons, the VIP. And you know, some other niggas from Roc-A-Fella got hit with bottles and they got fucked up. They got chased out, you know, and that was what happened.
The scuffle resulted in the Roc-A-Fella entourage exiting the venue to the back door, with the Terror Squad crew chasing them out. This altercation in Carbon Nightclub is where the rumor of Big Pun hitting Jay-Z with a bottle comes from. However, it's hard to verify the validity of this claim. People like Cuban Link and even the late rapper's wife, Liza Rios, denied these rumors, with Cuban Link claiming that it was either Memphis Bleek or someone else in the Roc-A-Fella crew smashing people with bottles.
That one, the club in Carbons, that was a whole different thing. That was, Jay-Z wasn't even there.
Yeah, because the story keeps saying that Pun hit Jay-Z in the head with a bottle and all that shit.
That time it was bleak.
So the story is coming back out that Pun hit Jay-Z in the head with a bottle at the club. What did you hear about what happened?
Well, what happened was that an event happened at a situation happened at a club night. The both camps were there, Terror Squad camp and Jay-Z's camp, and there was an altercation between the camps. It wasn't like, you know, just regular guys from the camp that was affiliated. There was an altercation between them. So this story, you know, about Pun hitting him in the bottle, I don't know where it came from. I don't know why they keep bringing it up or keeping it alive, because the truth was, it wasn't the truth. You know what I'm saying? If it was true, I'd be gladly say that, yeah, he hit him over the bottle and he knocked out, but that's not the case.
Others, like rapper and close friend of Pun's at the time, Noriega, say that Pun was indeed hitting people, including Jay-Z with a bottle. However, it's hard to trust Nori's account of what happened, as he wasn't actually there when the incident happened, instead getting his information from a second-hand source.
I always wanted to know, man, is it true that Pun story hitting Jay with the bottle?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they were beefing over who was closing. I don't remember. But I remember, I think Hov and them had brought like 80 niggas to the spot. And Slime and them was like 8 or 10 or maybe 12 deep. And it just took the fan. And from what I heard, because I wasn't there, allegedly I wasn't there. From what I heard, Pun was tackling them niggas. and he was hitting niggas in the head with a bottle, from what I heard. And Joe and Jay still hasn't got over that.
DJ Whoo Kid was another person who, while not having been there, claims that Jay was leaving the venue when the brawl started, and on his way out, got hit over the head.
Because I think Jay-Z and Pun had beef in the club, and I think they hit Jay-Z with a bottle. Jay-Z was sleeping, whatever, in the back.
With so many different versions, it's hard to come up to a conclusion of what truly happened that night on Carbon. While there is some evidence which might disprove the rumor of Pun hitting Jay with a bottle, like the fact that Jay might not even participated in the brawl, with some sources like Cuban Link's account of the story leading us to believe that Jay either left the club before the altercation took place, or never even showing up at the club to begin with, it's hard to say definitively. However, one thing is for certain, the altercation between Terror Squad and Roc-A-Fella crews indeed took place that night, taking their feud to the next level, with Pun later referencing this incident in numerous songs. These references didn't go unnoticed by the public, and soon sparked another rumor, alleging that Pun had pushed a gun into Jay's chest that night, threatening to shoot him, with Jay allegedly begging for mercy. These rumors were backed with the lyrics from songs like 100%, where Pun raps, "Don't matter, put the chrome to your bladder," and 2 bars later mentions a Rambo knife, the one he allegedly had during an altercation on Carbon, suggesting that there was more to the story than meets the eye. Another track that was tried to be used as evidence was a song titled "You Was Wrong," where Pun rapped, "The only rapper that will pull out a gun and slap the shit out of you. You can't tell me nothing, I'll clonk you and stomp out your belly button." Fans speculated that this was once again a reference to the incident in Carbon, further claiming that Pun had pistol whipped Jay that night. Despite being largely speculative, the people were also pointing to an unreleased version of Nas's Ether to further support their claims. The unreleased version of Jay's diss track featured a verse saying, "Call yourself a gangsta, but you were begging for pardon. That night in Carbon, when Terror Squad flipped you on your squadron, tried to front on their checks till Pun put a gun to your chest." According to the fans, these claims made by Nas seemingly aligned with Pun's references in the songs and were widely used to support the rumor. These claims were never confirmed nor denied by any of the parties. Jay-Z never responded directly to the rumor, but he did address the bottle incident in a true life intro, rapping, "If a brother told you Hov got hit in the head with a bottle, either somebody lied to him or he's lying to y'all." In hindsight, while it's hard to say if there's any truth to the pistol whipping rumor, it wouldn't be entirely surprising given Pun's history of anger issues, violent behavior, and trouble controlling his temper.
Christopher was an abusive husband. He beat Liza. There's no other way to go around that. He won't want me watching talk shows, because talk shows are talking about cheating and they talk about abuse and talk about whatever. So for me not to get any ideas, you know what I'm saying? He didn't want to have no girlfriends because, you know, they bad influence or whatever. Said they want me to go into school because, you know, God forbid I get an education. I realize, you know, what the hell I'm doing in my life. You know, there's so much more I could do out there. You know what I'm saying? So he just tried to keep me, you know, in his palm of his hand. And he would do that a lot with fear. I'm saying by kicking, putting fear into my heart.
I was there when a lot of things happened. You know what I'm saying? That I know my man wasn't, how could I put that carefully? Basically, you know, I was there in incidents where I seen a lot of things I wish I haven't seen. That also affected me, you know what I'm saying? Because I was 18 years old, 19. You know, I'm still learning, you know what I'm saying, things about life. And, you know, but there was a lot of things that I seen that I didn't back them up on. My relationship as a friend is to just sit back, you know what I'm saying, and just be a friend. And I kicked the truth many times. And it wasn't something that was really for me to say. But after a while, it became something for me to say. He couldn't hold it back from me. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't say, "Yo, mind your business." Because I've been there from the get-go, so I have to tell him. And it's that he was ashamed of, you know, and he apologized, and he just didn't know sometimes what that anger.
A couple of weeks after the incident in Carbon Nightclub, Jay-Z's affiliate, a rapper by the name of Sauce Money, released a song named Middle Finger You, with lyrics seemingly dissing Big Pun and Fat Joe. To Pun, it seemed like Jay had used one of his little homies to indirectly respond as a sign of disrespect, similar to how Tupac let his homies diss Biggie on the notorious Hit 'Em Up. According to the story, there were two versions of the song released, the single version and a version of the song on DJ Whoo Kid's mixtape, which had alternate lyrics with more direct disses and threats to Big Pun. However, there are differing accounts of this version's existence, as Sauce Money denies the existence of a version with direct shots to Pun, claiming that the single version, which has no direct references to Rios, is the only one. He also claimed that the record has nothing to do with the Terror Squad and that anything that could be interpreted as a diss was purely coincidental.
It was a situation with me and Pun. I had put out a record called Middle Finger You, the title track, and for some strange reason, he thought I was talking about him. But I didn't know you. I didn't know him, so I don't have a reason to talk about you, so.
However, DJ Whoo Kid tells a different side of the story. In several interviews over the years, he stated that the version he put on his mixtape had disses to Pun, which were never heard on the single version.
Weeks before, there was a diss record that Sauce Money put out, because I think Jay-Z and Pun had beef in the club, and I think they hit Jay-Z with a bottle. Jay-Z was sleeping, whatever, in the back. So Jay-Z never responded, but Sauce Money responded. But I think I had the only record at that time dissing Pun like really bad, like talking about killing Pun, family members, all kinds of stupid. But I was the only DJ who had it.
Regardless of the exact details and intention, the result was that Pun was looking like a fool on the streets, with the notorious Latin King street gang apparently laughing at Pun, being disrespected by a relatively small artist on the record. Pun had to set the record straight and show the streets he is not someone to be disrespected. Fueled by his short temper, he decided to confront Whoo Kid for circulating a version of the song with lyrics directly aimed at him. After getting his number, Pun decided to call him and pretend to be a promoter looking to book Whoo Kid for a show for $1,000. Whoo Kid, being a young mixtape DJ who had never seen that type of money, jumped at the opportunity and agreed a meeting to pick up the money in person. He arrived at the agreed location, but there was nobody there.
So I get back on a payphone. I went across the street, went on a payphone, and I called Pun again, but I thought it was the promoter. So I started yelling. I used to yell at the promoters all the time. Like, what the f, man? God, you better hurry the f up.
After some waiting, Whoo Kid was greeted by a Mercedes-Benz, unbeknownst to him, driven by a Terror Squad affiliate. The driver told Whoo Kid to follow him to another location where he would meet with Funkmaster Flex and he would receive his money. An excited DJ Whoo Kid got into his car and drove to the location of the meeting, a dead-end street in the projects with a pimped-out van waiting at the end of it.
The way they had it set up, yo, it was the perfect setup because it was a circle. The two big projects, three buildings, two on the side, one in the middle, and it's a circle. The van was in the middle, and the van was a hooked up van. The van had rims, had fire on it. So I was like, yo, this nigga Flex is here, yo. Flex had the hooked up cars or whatever.
As he approached the van, he was greeted by a large intimidating figure, none other than an angry Big Punisher who was furious at the DJ for selling a dirty version of Middle Finger You. Whoo Kid tried to defuse the situation by trying to shake his hand. However, Pun refused, putting his arms behind his head as a way of showing that he has no intention to be nice with him. Pun invited him to come inside of the van and chat about his mixtape. However, the DJ was intimidated and started to back up. While moving away, Whoo Kid put his hands near his hips, which to Pun looked like he was trying to pull out a gun. Not willing to take any chances, Rios reacted by pulling out an Uzi submachine gun and pointing it directly at him.
Trying to back up. He still thinks I'm the gangster guy that cursed him out on the phone. And then I think when I backed up, my hands were down, and that's when Pun had a Uzi. I'll never forget this. Pun Uzi? Uzi. So Pun had the Uzi, his other homeboy. So I closed my eyes, right? So when I closed my eyes and when I opened them, I was in the van. That's how fast I got in the van.
Before he knew it, Whoo Kid was in the van with Pun, surrounded by Pun's goons. Rios instructed everyone to leave the two of them alone in the car. Once everybody left, Pun confronted Whoo Kid, expressed that he understood the hustle of a mixtape DJ trying to make money by having an in-demand song on his mixtape. However, considering the fact that the song in question was aimed at Pun, it's no wonder that he had a problem with it. All things considered, Pun let Whoo Kid off lightly since he could tell that the young DJ was just an ignorant kid trying to make a buck, not knowing any better and accidentally finding himself in the middle of a beef that had nothing to do with him. That being said, he was let go on one special condition.
So he was like, you know what? I'm gonna explain to you that this record right here got the Latin Kings laughing at me. That's why you're here. It's not because I wanna rip your head off, but I look crazy because in the streets I'm respected by the Latin Kings. Like, you know, he was like, yo, on the next mixtape, I want you to intro, say Jay-Z, out of here, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was saying, I'll do whatever. Just get me the f out of the van, yo.
Whoo Kid got out of the van, and after Pun left, two more jeeps filled with Terror Squad goons who were ready to shoot in case the situation got out of hand, came out of hiding and drove off behind them. As Whoo Kid recalls in an interview years later, this moment showed that Rios was more than just talk and was really about that life.
So out of everybody, what I've learned is Big Pun was like the real gangster out of the whole Terror Squad. All the other, I mean, because you know, back then Terror Squad, there was a reason why their name was Terror Squad. Like, Pun really went out there and did it.
Before leaving DJ Whoo Kid, Pun said that he had some business to attend to with Jay-Z at the Roc-A-Fella offices. Upon arriving, Pun caused a huge scene, demanding to see Jay. However, luckily for him, he wasn't there at the time, so the confrontation never happened. While Jay got off scot-free that time, the beef wasn't over. Big Pun still felt that he had a score to settle. However, Jay felt very differently, as his eyes weren't set on picking fights on the streets, rather than making music and networking. Sometime later, Jay-Z was invited to the listening party of DMX's second studio album, Flesh on My Flesh, Blood on My Blood. Coincidentally, Terror Squad member and close friend of Pun's, Cuban Link, was also present at the event. Interestingly, the two didn't get into any sort of argument despite their camps beefing, rather the two had a civilized conversation, with Jay expressing to Cuban Link that there wasn't any beef between him and Big Pun, and that Sauce Money's middle finger you not only was not aimed at anyone in Terror Squad, but also had nothing to do with Jay.
You know, at the end of the day, Jay did see me one time in a DMX listening party, and he came up to me and he said, "Yo, Cuban," and I said, "Yeah, what's up, baby?" He goes, "At the end of the day, it was never personal."
Yeah.
Like even with Pun's beef with Jay, it was never personal. It was more of what Joe was implicating and putting in his head, and it was more jealousy towards Jay. Yeah. It wasn't even real where, you know, they had a situation, Jay did him dirty, nothing. It was just like Joe always felt like Jay was telling everybody his story, like Joe's story, like he was that real nigga and Jay was fake. Okay. So that was the whole, you know, situation with that. But Jay approached me and he told me, yo, I heard you niggas feel a certain way about this, that, because he remember, damn, I forgot the other artist. Not Memphis Bleak. The other artist.
Beanie Siegel?
No, before Beanie. Chubby dude. Nice
Source
dude.
Money.
Source Money.
Yeah.
He did a song.
Okay.
He like getting at Joe and Pun.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? We heard it. You know what I'm saying? And anyway, Jay pulled me over to the side and told me, yo, that wasn't even about them. That this, that. Not more of an apology, but more just putting me on point. Like, yo, that had nothing to do with that.
Yeah. While the conversation was enough to convince Cuban Link, when he told Pun and Joe about it, their feelings toward Jay didn't change, and they were still hungry for get back. The culmination of the beef between Big Pun and Jay-Z happened while Jay was on tour, when they allegedly caught Jay lacking at a show in Chicago. The details of the confrontation are scarce and not 100% reliable. The only thing that is clear is that a confrontation definitely took place. The only genuinely trustworthy sources are Big Pun, Fat Joe, and Jay-Z. Seeing as Pun passed away, and neither Joe or Jay are going to talk about their beef anytime soon, it's pretty clear that the situation is a closed book and we'll have to rely on third-party accounts of what happened and decide which version to believe in ourselves. A really descriptive account comes from none other than Cuban Link, who was apparently with Pun and Joe in Chicago at the time. According to him, the story goes that they confronted Jay in a break room and Pun let his demons loose on Jay, chasing him around the room trying to beat him up, with Jay allegedly even running around the couch, trying to evade the Terror Squad duo.
Yeah, one of the tours that we was doing, yeah, they had a little private meeting. I think it's because after that situation happened. And then, you know, Joe and Pun went to meet him inside a room. And, you know, Jay was, you know, I'm a track star inside the room, but, around the couch.
Okay.
And, you know, that's what I know. You know what I'm saying? Those are things that probably everybody don't know, but I know.
And just Pun told me he was chasing him around the couch, like, you know, Pun started wilding. You know, I remember how Pun used to get with the cycle, the demons. He used to scare everybody with, like, the demon that he's in him. So I know how he get. So he said, you know, that Jay was like running around the couch and said, yo, I didn't mean that like that. You know, whatever. No punches were thrown at that time, but, you know, that's a story my brother told me, so I'll go with it.
Another account of what happened comes from the late rapper's wife, Liza Rios.
And then there was another show date that we was at a show and Jay-Z was also performing, and Pun knew that Jay-Z was there. So because of the altercation between their camps, you know, he stepped up to Jay-Z to see if there was any beef or any problems, you know what I'm saying? And Pun went in with Cuban and a few other guys and went to Jay-Z's green room. And as fast as they went in, they came out. And, you know, Pun came out and said there was no problem. That, you know, they squashed it and it was all good.
According to Liza, Pun went to Jay's room with Cuban Link and a couple of other guys and left just as quickly as they entered, squashing their beef without any problems, both performing at the venue later that night. This version doesn't line up with Cuban Link's, who not only claimed that he wasn't present at the confrontation, but also painted a much more confrontational picture when compared to Liza's. Despite the facts that doesn't seem to line up, both versions seem believable, as both Cuban Link and Liza were close to Pun and likely told the story as they heard it from Rios himself. It's possible that the truth lies somewhere in between. A confrontation between Pun and Jay definitely took place, and perhaps it was even quite heated. However, it's unlikely that there was a physical altercation, seeing as both artists performed at the venue the very same night, and nobody seemed to have any signs of injury. Whichever version of the story of what happened that day in Chicago you choose to believe in, it's clear that the beef wasn't over, as both parties continued to fire shots at each other on songs. Fat Joe dissed Jay on his album Don Cartagena for stealing his and Pun's style and not really living the life that he was rapping about, and Pun dissed Jay on the song called Heavyweights. Later on, more shots were fired towards Jay on the Terror Squad project, Terror Squad, the album, on multiple songs. It's clear that the Terror Squad's problems with Jay-Z didn't go anywhere. However, by this point, it wasn't in Jay's best interest to respond, as by the turn of the century, he had become a far more dominating figure in the music scene, outselling both Big Pun and Fat Joe, and winning out over them in multiple award ceremonies. The situation was looking quite grim for Pun, who seemingly had abandoned hope of ever outshining Jay, expressing that despite not being the best selling, he's still the best in the game, on the song called My Turn from his final studio album, Yeah Baby. It's at this point in the story that it's important to address the elephant in the room, Pun's weight.
It started when he got his money, that money from the lawsuit. When he got his money, then he was like, it was easy ride from there, like, you know what I'm saying, he got his car, and he was just driving around. He was just on Mac mode, just chilling, driving around, you know what I'm saying, checking niggas out in the hood. So he wasn't physically, you know, doing anything. He had problems growing up, you know what I'm saying? He had issues that he never resolved. And with him, his addiction was food. So if he was upset, he ate. If we was broke for a while and we just got dough, we mad happy, we would eat. If he was bored, he would eat. So everything was with the food.
During the recording of his final album, his weight began to get uncontrollable. His health had been in decline for some time by this point, as being obese for the latter part of his life had taken quite a toll.
When he used to go out with Joe on shows, and it was sometimes it would be hard for him to get dressed, so without me being there, so I started realizing that it was going to be a problem. And then as time escalated even more, it started getting worse, And then there was a time that he couldn't do anything for himself. He couldn't use a bathroom by himself. He couldn't take a bath by himself. He couldn't get dressed by himself. Couldn't clean himself by himself. I did everything. I was basically like a home nurse. Now it was like a job.
I was nervous, I was nervous that he was gonna stop breathing because he was losing his breath in his sleep, So that's when I started getting really worried, and I would tell Liza, is he gonna choke? And she's like, no, that's how he sleeps, he's fine. But to her, what was normal to me was, fear.
According to the stories, his health got so bad that Pun had a bed in the studio just so he wouldn't have to get up while recording music.
Pun came in the crib, and every place he went, he sat. It's like, and this is my first really time kicking it with him, and I was just like, I'm that kind of cat. If I meet your man for the first time and he's high, I'm gonna go to somebody and say, yo man, your man's real high, If I meet somebody, so I seen it, I'm like, yo, is he really carrying that weight? Okay, They all, and I said, nah, just ain't right, And then next time I seen him, it was like we would stand. It was like he was standing like on one foot and stuff. I'm like, yo, man, that ain't healthy.
Pun was just talking. We was all talking. We was all in a group talking, and he just fell asleep. Like this is how we talking right now. It's like all of us, everybody, and he just fell asleep, and it scared me because I ain't never seen that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I never seen that in nobody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, cause he was, operating like. Yo, Nori, no. And then the next second, I was like, yo, Pun. And then he was just snoring. And I was like, yo, I didn't know what it was, but I just knew it wasn't good. You know what I mean?
Ultimately, all of it was Rios' fault, as he had surrounded himself with a bunch of yes men who allowed him to eat himself to death, and real friends like Cuban Link, who weren't afraid to confront their friend about his problem, were scars. While he tried to better himself at one point, losing a lot of weight after going on a weight loss program, and later even rapping about it on the song It's So Hard, saying, "It's hard work, I just lost 100 pounds, I'm trying to live." His efforts were unsuccessful. Pun's problem lay deep in his psyche, and he would do everything that he could to avoid quitting his lifestyle. He would manipulate people and situations in ways that it would make it easy for him to continue to overeat. He also didn't follow the program as strictly as he was supposed to, allegedly getting his kids to bring him chicken nuggets when coming to visit him.
He went to a fat farm in North Carolina, he lost 80 pounds. He landed up visiting us here on a weekend trip and never went back. And that's the worst thing he did, because that's when he doubled all his weight.
Chris was a celebrity. He could get anybody to sneak him in some food, and that's what Chris was doing for a while, so defeated the purpose. He went to North Carolina, he lost 100 pounds, he came out, he gained 300 pounds, so it didn't work.
After quitting the program halfway through, Pun unfortunately regained so much weight that he was heavier than ever before. It can be said that Pun's stubbornness and ability to stand up for himself was one of his greatest qualities, without which he would have never climbed the heights that he did. However, it's also true that it was the cause of his untimely end. On February 6, 2000, Pun had a heartfelt conversation about his weight with his sister. He told her that he would get a weight reduction surgery and do everything that he can in order to get his life back on track. However, it was a little too late, as the following day, on February 7, 2000, Pun suffered a heart attack in conjunction with a respiratory failure and was rushed to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead at the age of 28 after paramedics were unable to revive him.
The popular Latino rapper known as Big Pun has died. His real name was Christopher Rios, and he died of an apparent heart attack at White Plains Hospital. He was only 27.
I took the phone, I said, Liza, what's going on? Is he in the hospital? Is he okay? She said, Bina, he didn't make it. And I said, what do you mean he didn't make it? He didn't make it to the hospital? Is he in the hotel? She said, he didn't make it. Your brother died. He didn't make it. And I can't explain to you what that felt like. It was like a building fell on me. I can't explain it. My whole world collapsed because my brother was the center of my life at that moment. He was, I looked at my brother as strength, as, nothing could tear him down.
And I stood with the phone in my hand, just staring at the phone, just like in shock, in a daze, like praying, God, don't let it be happening now. You know, it's too soon. My son cannot leave me yet. You know, he's got so much going for him. And
just like that, one of the greatest MCs to ever touch the mic was gone, leaving behind a wife and 3 young kids. The death weighed heavy on everyone, the fans, his family, and his friends. Cuban Link, one of Pun's best friends, who came up with Pun in the rap game and saw him both in his athletic youth and obese end, recalls Pun's passing as tragic, stating that after seeing his friend's lifeless body, a part of him died.
Shit, you know, broke my heart. Just broke my. You know, yo, went to see him. My day was laying down, I did. And just. I cried myself, running, and I apologize for everything. And I love him to death. You know what I'm saying? That's my brother.
With Pun passing away, his biggest rap beef had concluded quite anticlimactically, with his opponent outgrowing him and Pun dying before the two could properly sort out their differences. Despite Jay-Z's and Fat Joe's beef, which both parties continued to contribute to years after Pun's passing, Jay-Z dedicated a moment of silence for the deceased rapper on the Tim Westwood show.
I just want to say how sad we all are here, to hear that, man. Yeah, that's terrible, man. Let's stop the music for him one time, give him a moment to stop. Rest in peace, man. You know? For real, man. Shout out to his family.
While the story of Big Pun concluded earlier than it was supposed to, we can all agree that it's one of the most interesting tales that hip-hop has to offer. Pun had a short but impactful career, achieving never-before-seen heights and solidifying himself a spot in the history as one of the genre's best artists. He stayed true to himself and didn't let anyone disrespect him or his friends, no matter if they were one of the biggest hip-hop artists or a nobody mixtape DJ.